Hi, I'm Scott Fagerland. I'm an amateur genealogist. I have an extensive family tree on MyHeritage, and I have produced a series of videos um, that I make available to relatives only. And the MyHeritage site is also only open by invitation. There are a lot of great advantages of the MyHeritage site, but there are also some limitations. Access is one of them. And there's also some limitations to how much information we can put here. So I've created my own family tree. It's part of my own website, ScotFagerland.com. And the way this works is basically it's got a profile page for each ancestral couple. So this website does not go into my distant cousins. It's for ancestors only, but if you share some of these ancestors, then I think you'll find it interesting. So to access it, we click on my genealogy page, and there are a few different features here. The one we're looking for today is family trees, and specifically this family history tree with profile pages. Okay, it begins with me as the root person. And the way this is going to work is that basically we can start clicking up the tree to look at ancestors, or we could click down uh, to come back down to descendants. Many of these pages have maps. I'd like to introduce you to one here. So these maps are on Google Maps. You can scroll, zoom in and out. And the color coding here is that red pins are for graves and green pins are for farms or churches where my ancestors lived or worshipped. Purple pins, by the way, are just kind of logistical points of interest for trips that I take sometimes. I call them Great Grand Genealogy Tours, and this is the planned route for one coming up soon to the Great Lakes area. So there's a lot of purples on here which might represent hotels, for example, or relatives' houses. But the ones of general interest are, again, red for grave, green for home or church. Okay, so let's start climbing this tree to see where it goes. So if I click on my parents, we see my parents' page, or at least what will be my parents' page. Since they're both alive, I'm not posting their information here. For privacy's sake, this site does not profile living people. But don't worry, there are plenty of generations that have come and gone. In fact, we don't have to get very far. My grandparents are all deceased, so they're all profiled here. This website is in progress and probably always will be in progress, so some pages will be better developed than others. But for example, here are my paternal grandparents, and you can see what this site looks like. So we'll have a profile picture, some biographical information. I like to talk about how they met, what they did for a living, where they lived, where they moved. Um, so, it's a pretty well-developed storyline that goes beyond what MyHeritage or Ancestry.com could do. Down at the bottom of the page, I have a few other links to Find a Grave, for example. If you're not familiar with it, I highly recommend checking out Find a Grave. You have to create a profile there, but when you get there, it does pretty much what it says. It shows you where everybody's buried. Um, I like to try to locate and visit my ancestors' graves, so that's a big part of my research. If we continue climbing, for example, these are my my great grandparents, and the best developed pages on this site tend to be the ones who come from places that I've visited. So I'm climbing up this particular branch of the tree because it's leading up to my Scandinavian ancestors, and I took a trip to Scandinavia in the 2010s to visit a lot of these sites, and I prepared these pages beforehand. So here's a good example of ancestors from Scandinavia. I believe these were my second great grandparents here. And you can see the green pin. This actually represents the Fagerland farm. And if you zoom out, you'll find that that's on an island. off the coast of Norway. So that gives you good perspective. Each couple has a table up at the top of the page, which has some of their basic information, links to their parents if they're available, and to their ancestral child. So if I clicked here, it would start taking me back down the tree. For example, I might now like to look at her parents. So her parents' profile page would be here, and their locations in Norway. So you get the picture. That's basically what this website is all about. So if you're a distant cousin of mine and you share some of these common ancestors, I hope you'll find this interesting. Um, again, it doesn't require any account or password. Just go to ScotFagerland.com and the genealogy page, and it'll take you right here.